All right. Hi, all. Welcome to the second installment of the Trust Zero Trust podcast. I am Tony Coughlin. I'm here with Gareth Young, the founder and chief architect here at LevaCloud. Today, we're going to be talking about the switch hack and how switching to a zero trust security framework can limit the damage or prevent this type of breach from happening in the future. Gareth, this is kind of an interesting one. Very popular, very popular gaming streaming platform gets hacked. What are the statistics? What do we know so far?
Well, Tony, let's talk about that. Yeah, I know. I don't have all this memorized, so I'm going to have to rely on my notes.
Oh, I don't have anything memorized either. You see my eyes darting all over the place. That's okay. The important thing is that the stats are legitimate.
Yeah. So 125 gigabyte of data was actually being leaked. And like it's out there now, you can download it from torrent websites and that kind of thing. It seems to be in source code, unreleased projects, and even like payments to some of their top streamers. And allegedly, this is like part one of the data that's going to be released. So actually, it might be a lot more than that. Really, all we know about this individual that stole the data is, well, they're anonymous, an anonymous individual, not necessarily associated with Anonymous, that hacker group. And they're looking to foster disruption in this kind of streaming space.
Yeah, I saw that. I believe they said it has become a cesspool, is what they were quoted saying. Yeah, alleged cesspool, we'll say. It's just an interesting comment. Yeah. 125 gigabytes, that's a lot of data.
It is.
How long do you think it takes to download? How long were in there downloading away?
I mean, honestly, like, I don't know, man. It might not be as long as you think if they've got super speedy internet.
Well, yeah. I've had a Call of Duty update download in an hour or so I suppose it's not that bad. All right. So, kind of getting into, what Twitch has said. They said that this happened from a server misconfiguration. But there's been, most of the aftermath seems to be coming from former employees or streamers at Twitch who are claiming that they've had some issues for a long time.
It's funny. So some of like ex-employees have kind of come out, like you say, and there's this kind of speculation that the company valued speed and profit over like the safety and the security of the users and data on the platform. And I think some of that comes from, apparently there's been quite an increase in like hate related raids on individuals' channels where they just like spam the chat with horrible comments basically. And also bots as well, causing a lot of problems in some of these streams, just kind of overrunning them. So I think that's where a lot of that comes from. But yeah.
And the timing on that, I mean, they said that's been a problem since at least 2017.
Yeah.
That's been going on a long time.
For sure. And from what I understand, there was a recent protest, if you will, or a movement to kind of try and force them into improving to try and force them into improving their service, and because of all this kind of stuff. But yeah, it's interesting. So like you say, misconfigured server, data on that server was accidentally exposed to the internet. And what makes it more interesting is these guys are owned by Amazon, so it's an Amazon company.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's like, oh, it's Amazon's platform or this or that. It's not. It's definitely not as simple as that, because the tools are there if you use them appropriately. But with Twitch, they were actually given a lot of autonomy to where they could select their own security stack. In fact, if you read, going back to what some of these ex-employees have said, it kind of seems like they were run a bit like just a really large startup. There wasn't really any standardization in the applications, processes as well. Made it really difficult to even audit what software they had out there in the environment. As far as actually, one of the things I read, this alleged ex-employee stated that he was still getting asked to review and approve documents like 4
Like
months
from
after they've
from
left the
yeah, from
business.
HR,
Yeah, so
like
it's kind of
HR handbooks and stuff.
kind of crazy, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it is crazy because I'm pretty sure they got bought for $1 billion. So it's not like they didn't have it in the budget and they did the best they could. They got bought for $1 billion. Like,
Yeah, it's just kind of like startups gone wild, you know.
I know. Yeah, I like the way you put that. I mean, it definitely sounds like, some poor hygiene, which real honestly can happen to anybody. Twitch blew up, they blew up quick. Some things got left behind. It really could happen to everybody when you're not kind of taking care of those fundamentals on a big platform where, probably has a lot of moving parts. But in your big CISSP brain opinion, if they were to switch to a zero trust security model, do you think that would help them stay better on top of security protocols going forward?
For sure, but there's a few layers to this, right? Um, you know, I guess the way I'll position this is a lot of people think that security is just an IT problem, and it's not. It's everyone's problem, right? It's something that needs to be addressed and taken seriously from the top down in an organization. And as such, it's only kind of part of a total solution. The way you run the business processes and procedures also come into play here. So when I kind of look at this, the things that sort of come to mind for me are first of all, well, was there a change management process here, right? If this person made a change on the server and that configuration, exposed it to the internet, is that something that could have been caught through a change management process? Because typically with, change management, there'll be some sort of meeting, heads of different areas or representatives of different areas will get together and, you'll propose your change. Hey, we're going to make this change and here's what we're going to do. And potentially in that scenario, someone could look at that and go, oh man, you can't do that because of this reason, and it's going to cause this problem, so it could kind of get caught there. But even if it goes past that phase of the change management process and they implement the change, really you should be testing and verifying that change. And, potentially you would notice, oh man, wow, we're able to suddenly hit this thing that we couldn't hit before, and all these files are open to the internet. Let's implement our rollback plan to roll back that change we just made. And if they are truly running like a kind of giant startup, then maybe they don't have that level of maturity in that area. I'm just speculating here.
I have a quick question on that for you, not to interrupt your vibe, but would that be that change management process? If you think of a company and departments, would that be like between IT and operations, or should that be in the IT department?
No, between IT and operations for sure.
Because I had a recent conversation, and I'll just make this point real quick, and then we can move on from it. Is like cybersecurity really is, it's viewed as an IT, like your CIO, your CTO, your director of technology, they're responsible for it. But really, it's almost like the bridge. Cybersecurity is really the bridge between operations, IT, and HR, because it also requires a lot of employee training. And education on what's out there, threats and best practices and security protocols. And I was talking to someone who's in the HR world and talking about the trainings, and we were talking about cybersecurity really has kind of moved out of just IT and over into HR, and with change management now, operations. It's kind of an interesting concept that I don't think is very popular right now.
For sure. I would say the second thing that I want to kind of throw out there, directly and indirectly related maybe. So like there was this whole concept of we're struggling to do software audits, there's no standardization of the tool sets being used. Standardized tool sets are extremely important, right? And some organizations will go the route of getting in different best of breed tools, whether it's security or otherwise, right? And the challenge with those is it can be quite siloed. But as well, if you've got an organization that's not standardizing on a given best of breed tool, then you might have multiple tools out there in the organization with overlapping capabilities that you're bloating a load of money on. But equally, you go to a change management board, other members of the board might not understand the impact of the change you're making because it's not a platform that's standardized across the organization, right? So there's that side of it.
Yeah.
And then, just to kind of touched on best of breed. The other way to go would be invest in a platform, a suite of tools that are, again, standardized, and then maybe that makes it kind of a bit easier to, get away from that tribal knowledge problem of, well, that team knows how to use that one and this team knows how to use this one, because everyone's kind of using the same thing in the same suite, and it's a bit more interconnected. So maybe that's a little bit of a tangent there, I don't know. But kind of starting to now move down into the technology side of it, right? The technical side of it. So the first thing that comes to mind is privileged identity management. So you've got a situation where this user, this admin, is going in to make a change. If we align ourselves with zero trust, we're following this principle of least privilege, right? And that goes further than just saying, okay, the admin should have admin permissions and the standard user shouldn't. It's this kind of concept of, well, you're the admin, you're not doing admin stuff all the time. So when you are going to go and make a change on a production server like that, you need to request those elevated permissions so that you can perform the task. And potentially what that could look like is a process, because there's, everyone's got their own way of doing this. Like Microsoft has privileged identity management inside Azure AD. You would go in and say, I need this role for an hour at this time. And to backtrack, if you're following a change management process, when the change is approved, you kind of have a scheduled window for when that's going to take place, right? So as part of that, you would go in and actually say, I need it at this time in relation to this change request, right? And there'd be a business justification there as well as to why you're doing that. And that's an opportunity for someone to say, well, hang on a minute, you do that change that's going to cause this problem potentially. So it's like another area where maybe that could have been caught. And then when we think about network design in general with zero trust, there could be some opportunities there as well. It sounds like this server had direct internet access, and this one configuration change opened this data up to the internet. But when we think about so with zero trust, it's all about microsegmentation, dividing up, segmenting components of your applications, so that it's just not one flat network where you can access 100 servers in one hit or whatever. Now, to take that to another level, thinking about this scenario, your actual network design could have made a difference here. So that one server might have had direct access straight on a network perimeter somewhere, okay? So think about this for an alternative way. And again, this is all hypothetical based on what we've read in the news, but there's a concept of like the hub and spoke network. And think of it like a bicycle wheel where you've got the hub in the middle and then spokes coming off of it, right? So the idea is that hub in the middle would kind of be like a network that has sort of governance capabilities, like a web application firewalls for access to the internet, firewalls that control access between the different spokes, which are networks in themselves, okay? And let's imagine this particular server that had the data on it was often one of the spokes up here, okay? Now, if you go and make a change on that, it's not got direct internet access, because internet access is flowing back through that centralized hub where we're applying governance, and we're probably also applying like a machine learning based threat protection capability, which is looking at all the traffic coming through the central hub. So if you've made that change up here in the spoke, and by accident, actually that data has suddenly been shared and potentially someone could hit it, it's less likely to actually be exposed to the internet for a couple of reasons. So first of all, let's just say the configuration within the web application firewall in the hub part did allow someone to root through to that file share. Well, the machine learning threat protection type capability you've got in there would see that traffic and be like, hang on, all that data shouldn't be getting shared. Let's shut that down straight away, sort of thing.
Yeah, or maybe even like, we've never seen this IP before. Why is it coming through?
Yeah, exactly. Or on the other side, if as an organization you've got standards that are like, well, um, this server hosts this particular application and it should only be performing this purpose, this type of traffic should be flowing through it.
Mm-hmm.
Then it probably wouldn't be possible to even access the file shares on it, even if there was a change made up at that level, because that kind of centralized governance, network firewall, web application firewall capability just wouldn't allow it. But it feels to me like, what's happened in this instance is they've just had a potentially regular perimeter network that's had direct access to the internet, and a change has been made, and because that server is just punching straight out, maybe with not a lot of security in between it and the internet, someone's been able to probe at it and just get straight into those file shares.
Yeah.
So
tough too. You make one configuration change and the source code is gone. I don't know what implications getting the source code stolen would.
Well, actually,
would provide.
It's a big deal for them, and we'll see where the story goes next. But zero, again, like we said in the last podcast, zero trust isn't a big bang thing. It's very much a journey. It's a bigger picture thing. You're reimagining your entire approach to security, and in some instances, that's going to mean redesigning the way that we're stringing together these virtual networks.
Yeah, I mean, even adding a conditional access policy may have helped with that.
I mean, maybe on some level, maybe. I guess it just depends on the nuts and bolts of what we're actually on that server. But yeah, for sure. So that's kind of my 2 cents on that one. So aftermath, some users have actually been asked to reset their passwords. And Twitch has gone through the process of resetting all of their stream keys. Now, stream key is basically a code that you as a user can put into your streaming software to allow it to connect to your Twitch channel. So they've reset all of those, and they've sent out messaging encouraging all users to turn on multi-factor authentication for their accounts.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and
great.
You should turn on multi-factor authentication for everything. To reiterate guidance we've given in the past, always lean on an authenticator app where you can. Don't use SMS. It's not a secure method of 2FA. And we go back and look at our first podcast to get a little bit more detail around why. Yep.
Where we cover SIM swapping.
Exactly.
But not to go into too far into that. And I'd just like to add, even if you're listening to this and you're not in technology and you have no control over who pushes out MFA, you can do it with your personal accounts. There's a lot of free authenticator apps out there. I know Google has one. We don't support any one authenticator app in particular, but get your social media profiles into it. Get your Amazon account into it. Just the other day, I had someone try to log into my Facebook from India. 2 weeks ago, someone tried to log in from Amazon. 2 days ago, my wife tried to log in from her phone into my Prime Video while I was watching a show. Guess what? You can't, because I have the Authenticator app. So even from a personal standpoint, that's a best practice you should be using, and we recommend that to everybody. It's low-hanging fruit. It does add an extra step, but it's a pretty easy extra step if you're using the app.
For sure. Awesome.
I'd also like to point out that I do have ears. Like the background here keeps cutting off my ears, and I keep catching a glimpse, and I just look like a head. I just want to let everyone know they're here and that they do work.
Thank you for clarifying that, Tony.
Yes, it's very important. Very important. Good follow up with the MFA. Any last comments you'd like to add, Gareth, before we wrap up?
I think you could wrap us up, Tony.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Again, today we covered the Twitch hack. Looking forward to putting out our next video sometime in the next 2 weeks. Thank you for joining. If you are curious about Zero Trust and want to learn a little bit more about it, head to our website, levacloud.com. You can even take a Zero Trust readiness assessment if you are curious as to where your organization kind of stands in the Zero Trust security framework. And with that, I bid you adieu, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Thanks all.
Thanks.